What's going on? What's going on? What's going on, y'all? Hello, 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 wherever in the world you are watching from. Thank you so much for joining on this Saturday morning, afternoon, evening, or midnight, depending on where you are. We usually have people watching from many, many different continents. And so it's always interesting to welcome people because sometimes people are like, Dan, you got so much energy. Have a great morning. And I'm like, it is 8:30 p.m. I've had a great day. I'm about to wrap things up after the show. But I just want to say that today we're doing something totally new, totally special, totally fresh. Why? Because why not? This whole world is shifting and changing. This thing that's happening all around us, we've got to adapt. And I've got people on the show. I've got two guests who are going to be coming on. Literally, the three of us just met each other like 20 minutes ago. And the vibe is awesome. It's for the first time, we're going to have three people on the show at the same time. We have such different backgrounds and yet so much in our value system that is the same. And so today we're going to be talking about resilience. How do you persevere when life is difficult? We're going to talk about communication. How do you connect with people through social distancing, despite social distancing? Those are topics. But first, I want to say hello to whoever is watching. So can you comment? Because we are right now on my personal Facebook page, as well as the official I Am DanRam Facebook page, as well as on YouTube, as well as on Twitter. Can you just quickly say a hello, where you're watching from? I would love to give you guys a shout out. So we got Shakti. Hello, Dan Sir from India and West Bengal. And he's got my message. Start now, start simple. That's right, Shakti. Thank you so much for tuning in. Who else is on the show? We've got a namaste that has come in from Sushil, Mr. DanRam. It's always nice because the guys who watch from India are very respectful. There's always like sir and Mr. And then people who've known me for a long time usually go like Danny, because that was my name as a kid growing up. So I can kind of tell from the words how people know me. DanRam is very much like my stage name. So you see me at an event or something. Danny is like my childhood name. Daniel is like people who've known me on a personal level before the brand kicked in. But yeah, let me know where you are watching from. We've got a killer show. But before on some content, I want to make sure that everybody's ready to engage. Everybody's ready to connect. And so Pratham, we have got a coronavirus inspired quiz for today. All right. So if Pratham can please, Pratham's a producer of the show. If he can please show on the screen your quiz for today. And then I'm going to bring my special guest onto the show. So let's check it out. This is a maths riddle. Why? Because I'm kind of a nerd and I love doing maths. So right now I'm seeing a blank screen. And my guess is you're seeing a blank screen as well. So Pratham is going to figure this out. And then we're going to get the quiz online. Let me tell you a little bit about our two guests that are coming on the show. One is a combat medic for the U.S. Army. And he's stationed in the part of the world that is probably the worst hit right now with this whole COVID-19, which is New York City. He's in and out of hospitals, and somehow he's taken some time to be with us this afternoon. His afternoon. But this is something that he probably sees quite a lot about: sanitizers, doctors, and gloves. And so take a screenshot of that. And I'm curious, whoa, screen's going in and out. Here we go. I am curious who can guess the answer. It's some maths, and actually don't guess it. Just tell me the answer. Do the calculations and then give me the answer. The best thing to do is take a photo, because that is not going to be up all show long. But if you can take a screenshot or a photo with your phone of that maths riddle and then comment below what you think the answer is, that would be awesome. I'm curious who's going to get it first. We should do a giveaway. How about this? Whoever gets the right answer and tags a friend will get one of these Start Now, Start Simple t-shirt. I've got a bunch of these. I'm just waiting for this thing to end so that I can start sharing more of the love of Start Now, Start Simple. And so, yeah, whoever can calculate the answer to this maths riddle and tag a friend in the comments, you'll get one of these t-shirts. there's the giveaway for today. All right, let's go to our special guests. We have got not one, but two amazing people who are going to be joining on the show right now. And so I want to tell you that the first I just mentioned is a Army combat medic. I had to say that slowly because I don't know too much about the U.S. Army, but hopefully we're going to find out more about it. And the second, born in Nigeria, raised all over the world. He's basically me, but a much better looking version of me because he's a third culture kid. He has grown up in so many different places on 4 continents. He helps people with inclusion and diversity. They are both fireballs. Please welcome to the studio,
Hey.
Simeon and Tayo. Woo! Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining the show. It's good to have you. Can we just do a quick mic test? Can you just give a hello 1 2 3 or a yo 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 or whatever your signature hello is?
How you day?
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right. So we've got these two wonderful guests on the show. Yes, it is a crowded screen with 3 of us. It was initially going to be separate interviews, but then I was like, man, I think we can get some good conversation flowing. And so, gentlemen, I'm going to put you both on the hot seat because why not? It's not like your lives are not stressful anyway. So if I can make it more stressful, I'm sure you'd appreciate it. And so the way this goes is usually I will ask 60 seconds worth of questions, and we'll try to see how many questions we can get done. But I'm just curious, who is the faster human between the two of you? So I'm just going to ask a question, and we're going to see how many of these, who answers faster. So you keep the tally, okay? And then we're going to go for it. So question number 1. Where were you born?
Ukraine.
Okay. I thought I heard Simeon say Nigeria by accident, and I was like, no, you were not born in Nigeria.
It was like Ugeria because, it blended in. Ukraine, Nigeria. Ugeria. There you go.
We're going to call that one a tie. Okay, so let's go with this next question. If you could dye your hair any color, what color would you dye it?
True.
Okay, Tayo certainly won that one. Here's your next question. If you could be any animal, what animal would you be?
Cheetah.
Wow.
I heard cheetah first. Tayo, what did you say? What was your answer?
I said wolf. That's actually not the line. I said wolf, but I probably was a lion. But yeah.
Okay, this one's a little bit complicated, so we're just going to go one at a time with it. What is your favorite quote? So, Simeon, you go first, or whoever's got one. Favorite quote.
I like the quote from Jackie Chan. I will not let circumstances guide my life.
That's good. That's good. I have a mission statement that I always use anyway. So it's use your difference to make a difference. So I'm cheating. I'm using mine. But yeah, be that. Or the line from Hitch: "Never lie, steal, or cheat. And if you must lie in the arms of the ones you love. If you must steal, bad company. If you must cheat, death."
That is very deep.
That is very deep.
Yeah.
Okay. Not that you guys asked me, but my favorite quote, because I like sharing it whenever I can, is don't ask what the world needs, but find out what makes you come alive, because what the world needs is people who have come alive. And that's like you guys. You guys have come alive, and I can see that in your faces and in the stuff that you do. All right, let's go back to this. So who can go faster with this question? If you could be any flavor of ice cream, what flavor would you be?
Vanilla.
Vanilla. I did this before. This is the same thing I was doing. Killed it.
This already happened.
What is the one thing people compliment you for the most?
Smile.
My nose. Oh, fuck.
We got nose, and what did Tayo say?
I said smile.
Oh,
Smile.
it was very good.
Okay, smile and nose. Nice. As soon as this thing ends, where are you going to go travel to?
China.
Ooh, wow, you got me beat. I don't even know. It's probably somewhere local. I think I'm supposed to go to DC for something. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was kidding. I'm not going to China. One day. I want to go there one day. It's a very interesting place.
Me too. I haven't gone either. I'd like to go. what's your proudest moment to date?
Speaking of United Nations.
That's a good one.
That's a tough one. I don't even know. Probably Simeon,
in your training, didn't you have to do some like insane like hurdles and hikes and stuff?
Yes. Oh, I guess it would be probably I did a crazy hiking trip with my dad. It was a 220-mile trip, and that was pretty intense.
It's like a casual afternoon walk there, isn't it? Man, that's great.
It was beautiful, though. It was in California. It's called the John Muir Trail. Highly recommend it if you want to just see the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
very beautiful.
I feel like I've got a little flavor of your personalities. And again, I want to thank you guys for coming on the show. But let's get into the meat of it. Everybody right now is trying to figure out, what do we do in this new world that we live in? And for all three of us, what is true is that we all had to figure out new worlds constantly and consistently in our lives, because we're always being reshuffled, always having to move from one place to another. Tayo, starting with you, can you just, like in 60 seconds, give a quick background about your childhood? And then Simeon, I'm going to ask you to do the same as well. Just like 60, 90 seconds, give a little bit of context to where we came from.
All right, sure. So, my name is Tayo Rockson. I'm Nigerian. I grew up in 5 countries and 4 continents by the time I was 18. And the first 9 years of my life was spent in and out of military dictatorships. So before we transitioned to civilian role, my dad's job as a diplomat was, in and out of basically those dictatorships. And then we started traveling a lot. So I became this, minority everywhere I went, even in my own country. And so what happened was you initially go from having an identity crisis to also understanding the wonderful effect of what it's like to be exposed to the world. So I was dealing with those dual identities, like, who am I in all these cultures, but I'm learning about the world. And that curiosity is what led me down to writing, speaking, consulting, and working on bridging cultural divides. So yeah, now I'm a writer, speaker, consultant.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Tayo. Simeon, share a little bit about your background, man.
All right. So I was born in Ukraine, Odessa. I lived on my own for most of my life. Didn't really have my parents around. So I grew up in an orphanage with hundreds of kids. I was adopted when I was about 10 and a half. And I came to America, had to learn the language. It was a very big culture shock for me, but it was incredible at the same time. I have a wonderful family. And I've always, I guess, growing up, seeing a lot of pain around me, I've always wanted to help people. It's kind of one of the biggest reasons why I chose the medical field. And so eventually I was in the medical field, and then that led me to join the Army because I wanted to further in medicine. Currently, I'm trying to go to PA school, which is physician assistant. It's like right below doctor. But basically, yeah, that's pretty much my passion. But I also love music. I'm very passionate about music. I would say that Dan had some influence in that. And then just our whole family loves playing instruments and music. And so that's kind of like one of my biggest hobbies is doing music. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's awesome. So thank you guys so much for sharing about your backgrounds. I think something that I'm curious about is, how do you embrace what is different? What do you do when you're confronted with something that's out of your comfort zone, that is new, that is unexpected? Because we're all in that situation right now, right? So people who are used to being outside are suddenly inside. People who are used to seeing their colleagues are now seeing them virtually. Friendships, birthday parties. Like, I've got people who are actually depressed on their birthdays because they're so used to having a party and their friends dancing with them, and now they're doing it virtually. We're all in the space of new. And yet the three of us have had to practice this over and over again. Do you guys have any like practical tips or things you did when you were confronted with new, confronted with different, confronted with unexpected?
Well, yeah. I mean, I always say there's a 3-step process. This is educate, don't perpetuate, instead communicate. But what I will, we'll dive in deeper with that. But I'll preface this with a story. So when I was in that Nigerian kid who got posted the first time. So we just transitioned in 1999 from military to civilian government. My dad got posted to Burkina Faso. And so I was like, okay, I'm excited. We're leaving the country. I've never been, at least to my memory at that time. And I remember being this skinny Nigerian kid with a thick Nigerian accent in a French-speaking country and an American international school going through puberty. And so in a place where everybody felt different, I felt different. And for me, the place that had always brought me joy was sports, right? And at that time, I only played what we call football, you and I, Dan, but I guess it's known as soccer here. And so, but when I looked around me, this is one of the things I would say, you look around, you see what's happening. When I looked around me, I saw that people were playing basketball. And so I did what any 10-year-old would want to do when you want to learn a new sport. I went to the library. And I checked out all the books in basketball. I looked up the history. So figure out the context, look up the history and read up on the fundamentals, who the best basketball players were, all that. And then once I felt well versed with that, I picked up the magazines, the current magazines, to see who the current basketball players were. So Iverson, Chris Webber, Vince Carter, late Kobe Bryant, Shaq. And so when I felt well versed in those, I decided to then go to the best basketball player on campus and ask questions. So ask questions. And I said, shout out to Ouagadougou. Hey, Ouagadougou, how you doing? Yes, that's where I was. And so I asked questions and I asked him if he could teach me. And so our one-on-ones became 2-on-2s, 3-on-3s, 4-on-4s, 5-on-5s. Say all that to say, all of a sudden, no matter where we come from, I say all that to say, first look within you to see what it is you like to do. So if you're like Simeon, it's music. And then find out where all the other communities of those people exist. Now you're using, we're on a show online here. There's Zoom, there are all these groups. And if you can't find someone, host something. Say, hey, I'm doing a music night. Please tag anyone who's interested in music. We want to have a night where we do this. Or if it's sports, we want to watch, esports or something like that.
Yeah.
Find a way to build community and create some sense of normalcy virtually, but it's going to involve asking a lot of open-ended questions because that's going to let you into people's lives and vice versa. So that's what I would say.
Wow.
I love that. That's a really good answer. And if I can jump in there around building tribes, I feel like whether it is virtual or in real life, we are tribal in our biology. We seek to belong. And one of the most easy ways to build a tribe is around shared values or shared interests, one of the two. So if it's a shared interest, it could be a sport. And if you can't play the sport, it's okay. Talk about it. Watch a rerun and then have a conversation about it. Relive those glory moments. If it's music, collaborate. This is a brilliant time to be songwriting. This is a brilliant time to be connecting with new people. If it's a value system, whether it's faith, whether it's ideologies, whether it's philosophy, whether it's just political conversation, man, I mean, for some people, this is a revelation that this can happen online, but discussion forums and online groups have been happening for ages, for decades. And so be a part of that. And it's a great way to get that sense of belonging and that sense of identity and that sense of value around what you bring to a tribe, even if you're isolated. Right. So
I can definitely relate to Tayo over there. As he was saying, when he came to a different, culture, country, and having to experience that. So when I, came to the United States for the first time, the very first people, obviously, that I was introduced to was my new family. And, these are, at the time, they were just strangers to me. I didn't understand how family worked. I had some friends in Ukraine growing up, but not many. And so like the very first thing that I did that I remember till this day was actually I threw around the football with my brother, American football. And I've never, ever seen that before because in Ukraine, we play soccer. Like soccer's huge in Europe. I mean, they worship it. Yeah. And so I was very good at soccer, but I was terrible at football. My brother, like this big ball, and then he just threw it at me and I got scared and I ran away from it. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you throwing this object at me? But then very soon we were able to build a relationship, a connection with no words, because I didn't speak English and he didn't speak Ukrainian. And then but it was just that simple act of throwing the football around with somebody who seemed to care about me meant a lot to me. And then, my parents, just, spending time with me, reading books, simple things. Like, I think that having a foundation in time of crisis and when you come to different diversity and change is so important. Foundation. And then people find that in so many different aspects in life. But I think that family is a cornerstone. Family is so important to people's foundation. So
yeah, if I may add, I think what Simeon's saying is so true. I think this is a unique time to find community. This is basically what we're saying. And so a lot of times a crisis like this, what it will reveal is just how for granted we've taken the basic things we have around us. Simeon and I are in New York. A lot of times we often walk by medical professionals and people that are considered in the essential services, whether it's people that are delivering food, driving cars, groceries, and we never understand how essential what they do is until something like this happens. And now you can see that the only things open are, what you call essential services. How many times before today did we even take the time to say, thank you, or I really appreciate you? So there's a bunch of things that have been available for us to commune that we might have taken for granted that we can now amplify if we choose to. So,
yeah. Now, I know for some people, okay, full disclaimer, for me, embracing difference was not a choice. It was just a reality, right? I was just thrown in to new schools and new cultures. And there were kids my age who were like double my height. And I was like, how is this happening? There were kids who were like, whose just bodies developed differently from mine and had different accents and different ideas. And it was just not a choice for me. I had to do it, but I'm grateful for it, because doing that every 2 to 3 years, moving from country to country, continent to continent, culture to culture, school to school, like it forced me to be comfortable with me, because in that process, I had to find me. What do you think are some of the benefits of this current season when we're all being forced to do something new, to try something new, to be someone new? Is there any gain from this? Because I'm certainly in conversations where people feel that they're at a loss and that they are going to be stepping back professionally, personally, that they're lesser versions of themselves. And yet, when I look back at my life, in those moments of transition, sure it was difficult, sure it was painful, sure it hurt, sure I cried. But the person that came out of that, I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for those seasons. So what are some of the gains that people can be hopeful for, even if they don't see it right now? What are things that you guys have seen through those periods of transition, stepping out of your comfort zone, that you go, it was tough, but I'm grateful because fill in the blank?
So I think that one thing that I've seen a lot with people who either get affected by this virus or just with the craziness that's going on right now, with the economy, is the ability to reflect on your life and maybe to perhaps change what you were doing before. Because a lot of people get so focused on what they're doing and they get so busy that sometimes either they push out the right people in their life,
Correct.
or, and they don't focus on the right things. So I think it's just a good time to maybe take a breather, focus. And even for business people, it's a good time to reflect on your business. You could sit there and strategize. Maybe you have so much time. Like even me being a musician, like I don't have much time for music, but when I do, it's such a unique time, because you can really sit there and focus on the certain concepts that you maybe just weren't aware to before.
Yeah.
I love that.
I'll double back on that, and I'll say I think it's definitely a time for self-awareness. Dan, you were talking about the importance of finding yourself across those cultures. That was what led me down the path that I am right now, where you find yourself in between those cultures. But when you're in COVID-19 right now, what's happening here is you have to confront maybe those inner demons you've suppressed. I think a lot of people don't take mental health very seriously. So what's happening with COVID-19 is you might have to deal with the childhood traumas, the anxieties, the depressions, the people that you in your family or your friend circle that you might have not set boundaries against. You have to really determine what your values are, like Simeon was saying, but then you have to actually live it out, because there is no option. You can't distract yourself by going out to work or going to the gym. You have to say, okay, no, or yes. And that particular moment where you become a better and a more self-aware person who's firm on their values, I think is going to help you become better. And also you have no more excuses to not do your hobby. So if you want to write a book, now's the time to outline the book. If you want to release that song, now's the time to do that. If you thought about courses, if you want to write a speech, this is the time to actually write, produce, create. So, will you?
Yeah, I love that. That's really good stuff. I have one or two questions left for these guys. If you guys who are watching have any questions, feel free to drop it in the comments, and I'm sure they will, as they're doing right now, come up with brilliant answers off the cuff as I hit them with my questions. So feel free to drop your questions in as well. I want to talk about resilience because I think when I look back, one of the things that I appreciate about my erratic and colorful childhood growing up in 10 countries on 4 continents is that I learned resilience. I learned that whatever life threw at me, I was going to find a way to come out on top, because so many times in so many situations, it may not have looked like it was in my favor, and yet I'm still here. And there were times like even the last recession, I just come out of college. I was feeling pretty cocky and comfortable. I was like, man, I got an Ivy League education and an MBA. Bam, bam, I'm good. Let's go. Give me the money. And then the world's like, no, we don't have jobs, but I'm here and I've survived. And that's why this time around, I'm like, if it happened last time, it can happen again. And I know for me, a big part of my resilience is also in my faith, because I believe in a God that is worth trusting. And I basically go, if he took care of me last time, he's going to take care of me again. For you guys, how does resilience play into this? Like, what do you trust in? What do you hope in? What do you lean on during these kind of moments?
I mean, for me, it's definitely God, and also I have a strong sense of belief in the human spirit, because like you, there have been several moments where I shouldn't be here. I've had, a near-death experience. I've been fired twice. I'm in a country where I had to get one of the most difficult visas when a lot of people said no, lawyers said no, against all odds. I did that, but in those moments, I remember the moments prior to that where you're broke. You're not doing what your parents want you to do, but you believe in something and you have an idea. And what happens is when you're building the resilient muscles, you start to think about, hey, how can I be creative in a way where I can still do what I want to do and find a way to build a community around that. And when I had my near-death experience in 2012, I can share it later if that's relevant, but what happened was I went from being afraid of failure, which is a very Nigerian thing. I don't know if it's like India where you have to achievement oriented, to being afraid of not achieving my full potential. Because at the age of 22, you're facing near-death experience, and the first thought that comes to my mind was, have you done everything you said you were going to do? I don't think anyone wants to go to their deathbed thinking that they could have done more. And so I started saying I wanted to die empty. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to get to my deathbed and be like, I wish I had done that. And so I then decided to just pursue all my curiosities. And inevitably, if you do what you feel like you're supposed to do, you're going to get creative with finding a solution. Even if it means taking another job, you're going to say, I'm still creating time for this. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to stay consistent. And what happens out of that is the unlikeliest person or source or information comes up to you and says, hey, I remember when you started this, I was watching. I just wanted to let you know that you're doing well. Here's something, or here's my support. And that's how it's showing up. It always comes from the most unlikely sources, and you never know who's watching. But yeah, don't give up on yourself and find your why behind your why. For me, the why behind my why is to make sure that 3 billion people are able to be the next set of global leaders, to 3 billion people under 30, and also my faith in God. So yeah, that's my reason.
I love that. So know your mission, know your why, because that's something that you can drop your anchor on. And in the hardest days, you go, no, this is why I'm here. This is why I've been created.
The why behind your why. The why behind your why is very important too, because it's one thing to know your why. I want to do that, but then why? When I'm working with people, I often have them even drill down to maybe 3 levels of why, and if they're ambitious enough, 7 levels of why. Because you need to be able to get to that point where it's like, why you? Why now? Why then? Why not anybody else? And when you're able to give language to that, you find yourself feeling more motivated.
Okay. I'm going to ask you what your why behind 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 your why is. But first, I'm going to go to Simeon. What do you drop your anchor on, man? How do you build resilience?
So obviously, I think the easy answer would be God. And I definitely believe in God, like you guys, and I do rely on God every day. But I think that resilience is a journey. It takes time to develop resilience. For me, at the start of my childhood, I think I've been building up resilience as I go. But I find that in life, it always seems to throw me a curveball where I thought I was super resilient and I was able to handle a certain situation, and then it just gives me something that I wasn't prepared for, and then it allows you the opportunity to improve. Not only improve, but to take on that challenge. So resilience is actually very interesting. If you look at the definition of resilience, it has two different definitions, really. One is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties or difficult situations, or the other one is it's a substance or an object that can spring back into shape after being manipulated, which I think is very interesting definition, and it's definitely true because I feel like that's how life works. We're like a shape, and we get twisted and just rearranged all the time without expecting it to happen. So for me, it's I would say one of the toughest situations I've been to, and I've already told you a little bit about this, Dan, but I'm in a United States Army, and I went to a program called RASP. What it stands for is Ranger Assessment Selection Program. It's very hard to get into. And even when you get there, there's like a 4-month evaluation where they evaluate your psyche, evaluate your, mental state and your intelligence and like your physical abilities. So it's really like, it's kind of like Tinder. There's swipe right, swipe left, like all the time. And then people, I saw so many different people just get so broken when they got rejected. Because it's like an opportunity of a lifetime, and when they say no, you're like, oh man, who am I? I guess I'm not worthy. So like situations like that can build resilience. And when I was, when I actually got into the program, man, it was just so incredible how they tested you. The whole program was literally about that, testing your resilience, and they wanted to make sure they would mold you into something that would, under extreme stress and pressure, you would be able to perform without hindrance, because you have that resilience, right? You have that foundation, you have that greater than yourself purpose, right? So I'll tell you a story. So when I was in this program, basically being a leader was the toughest thing to do in this program, because you would get scrutinized on every turn. And it was done obviously on purpose to build a good leader, because a good leader is challenged, right? And is not afraid of being told that, hey, you didn't do a good job, right. try again, you know what I mean? And so it was just like in this program, they would pick a leader at random, and usually they would pick the people who are not leaders, and then they would put you in charge of 150 guys, and this dude's decision would make 150 guys suffer for 4.5 hours of physical torment,
right,
if he made the wrong decision. And when he made the wrong decision, they would humiliate him in front of all of us. And then, so first they would punish us to make us hate him, and then they would manipulate him, and then they would pressure us to what is called peering. So peering would be a consensus where a bunch of candidates would sit down and say, hey, this guy is lacking. He's not a leader. He's not capable to be a ranger. Get him out of here. And he's gone. So talk about resilience. Talk about a situation where you have to adapt and overcome. And I think that was a part of my life where I was just extremely challenged, all these different circumstances and whatnot. So I could go into so much more about resilience, but I don't want to be the only one talking here. So
well, we do have some questions coming in from our guests as well. So just so you know, well, we'll start with Tayo first. There's a question here from Benita Howe from the US. She goes, how do you think about embracing opportunities that aren't directly related to your current why? Does your why emerge from that? And that's a good question because a lot of people are having to pivot or do things in a fresh and new way. So how would you answer this question, Tayo?
Well, the thing is, I definitely think your why is something that can evolve over time. One of the things that is important to keep inventory of, the three things, what do you like? What are you good at? And what does the world need? And it's very important to continuously take inventory of those three things, right? What you like could always change based on what you learn. What are you good at could be something you teach yourself or something you find that's hidden, or maybe someone tells you. and what the world needs is the phone not randomly playing. what the world needs could develop. Think about COVID-19 right now. I think there's so many people who have all of a sudden found their knitting skills useful, right? They've come up with different, masks or different ideas and all that. Where before did that happen, right? If you weren't taking inventory of that, how would you do that? So many people, every time at 7 p.m., you're in New York, Simeon, there's a thing where outside our windows, we all clap for the medical professionals and we sing and we play all these things. It's there. So if you're thinking about embracing opportunities, just always have that inventory and your why will inevitably emerge. And learn how to listen. Many people listen to confirm, but they don't listen to understand. And so there are a lot of hidden things when someone is telling you something. Someone could tell you, hey, I really like this thing that you do, or you're really good at that. It's very important to have those moments. For me, the thing that people will come and be like, your energy, Ty, or it's great. And to me, I used to take that for granted. I've always been hyper randomly. And then someone said to me, that's your thing, right? Not everybody can just wake up without coffee or sugar and just be energetic. That's a thing that you should use. And I was like, I didn't think of it that way. So those would be those things. And I think if you learn how to listen to those and listen to yourself while keeping those lists, your why will emerge from that. So, yeah.
I love that. Listening to you, Tayo, I'm convinced that we're the same entity because I've made a career out of energy. And that's why people follow on social media, is because I am their boost of coffee. And they always ask me, like, Dan, like, which motivational speakers do you listen to? And I was like, I don't actually listen to them because I don't really need them. I just wake up excited and like pumped for the planet. And I drink coffee in the afternoon to hang out with my parents because they love a cup of coffee. And so I'll have a coffee with them, but I don't need coffee in the day. So I feel like we're the same human, man. Simeon.
I need coffee. I drink about this much every day.
Gallons, but his schedule and his lifestyle is probably very different from ours, and that's a question that's coming in. Matthew is in Israel. He's training to be a doctor of sorts, and he's asking, what sorts of stuff does your daily work in New York City expose you to? What are some of the lessons you're learning on the field?
Well, we've already been talking about adapting to adversity. If this virus is anything, it's very different. Because it presents with so many different symptoms, and right now the coolest thing is watching we call this in the medical field the trend. So basically, you're watching, you have thousands of patients, and you're watching for similarities and seeing how this disease behaves. And I think the most interesting part was one thing that we found out was people start to lose a sense of smell and taste, and that didn't come out for a while. And we in the Army knew that way before the news knew that. And that was just very interesting. I thought that was really cool to see, because like what we do right now I can't talk a lot about it because I'm not allowed to really. So, but basically we're just screening thousands and thousands of patients basically, and just looking for trends and making sure that everybody's okay. And the problem is with this disease is, like you guys probably already know, it's asymptomatic for a lot of people. So the way the disease is actually being primarily spread right now is because people are asymptomatic. They don't know they have it, so they ignore it, and they go do daily life things, and they spread it. And that's unfortunate. And that's why we have all these restrictions in place, which is just tough for Americans because it's America. We love to do stuff. We like going to the beach. We like going to concerts and having a good time and hanging out with friends. And so it's just interesting. It's an interesting situation. And then so just learning how to deal with that, and then learning how, a lot of people don't like to accept that either. Because we've had patients where we're like, hey man, you have it. And they're like, no, I don't. Like, they don't accept it. It's just really interesting. And you gotta definitely prepare yourself for the possibility of accepting the fact that you have this, because a lot of people don't accept it. Like I said, like even for myself, like let's say I have a certain sign and symptom, right? I get like a fever or even something small like a cough, or
Right.
like my eyes start to get itchy, or I get all achy like for no reason, and I just ignore it. I'm like, no, I'm fine. I've had this before. I'm okay. It's just like
Right.
a seasonal thing. But like that kind of ignorance is actually what's going to spread it. And so, not to put fear into anyone or anything like that, but you should be responsible with you, your friends, and your family to look out for stuff like that. And even in your household of family and friends, you should still try to keep space, because you can actually spread it to each other and spread it to your relatives and whatnot. And so it's just unfortunate, but we do have to really keep space. Obviously, constant hygiene. Always wash your hands. I mean, there's not enough times you can wash your hands. And I mean proper washing hands, 20 seconds, each finger under the fingernails. It's tiresome. I'm not going to lie. I don't like washing my hands for 35 seconds every time, I pick up my cup of coffee and I'm like, oh man, probably got to go wash my hands now. So, but it's, it's
I'm going
definitely.
to give you a chance to wash your hands very soon. Our way of doing it has been to like completely detach from civilization. We are so far from humans. We're so far from everything, surrounded by coconut trees and wild peacocks. We're totally distanced from everything. But one final question for both of you. As people that have, all three of us have had to reinvent, recreate, re-identify throughout our lives. And for some people, this is the first time they're going to have to adapt and shift gears. And my guess is, given how quickly the world's evolving, this will not be the only time. Right now, it's caused by a virus, but chances are in 5 years, 10 years, something's going to come around that's going to force you to do something new, embrace something different. What single piece of advice would you give them? This is what we're going to close on tonight. Like, what's one thought as far as embracing the new you? What would you say to them?
I think it's very important not to have a fixed mindset. That's the most important thing. There are studies on growth mindset and how that helps. But if you have a fixed mindset, it's very hard for you to embrace the unexpected.
Right.
All of us here have been placed in situations where we didn't initially have choices. We just sort of had to roll with the punches. But if you have a growth mindset where you are actively learning, you do this thing every day where you say, I have people go through this exercise, so this is something you can do. Find 10 ways to solve a particular problem. It could be minor, or how to solve the problem of this not fitting in correctly, or how to solve the problem of coronavirus in New York City. If you get into that habit of just writing out 10 ways, you're going to find yourself using your brain a lot more actively than you can. But also, that keeps your mind open to new possibilities, because once that happens, the resilience that you're going to find that we've been talking about is going to develop. But you're going to find yourself telling yourself different stories in moments of crisis. You'll be like, okay, so this is happening. Let's try this. So that's just an active thing you can practice on a daily basis that I think will keep your mind active.
I like that. Thank you so much for sharing that. We had a growth mindset. It was actually called How to Train Your Change Muscle. I had a guest on Monday, and that's exactly the parting advice he had, was write down a problem, find 10 new ways to solve that. Do that every day, and you find yourself being more open-minded about yourself as well as others. So I love that you echo that. That is such good advice.
Thank you.
Simeon?
Yes, I have one that's very, very interesting. I'm not sure if you guys heard of this guy. His name is Viktor Frankl. He was actually he's an Austrian Jew, and he was condemned to go to a concentration camp. And he was a psychiatrist, and basically he was put in a very interesting situation where he got to watch human behavior at its finest. I mean, talk about just people, just figuring out like the whole world is against me. I'm in a scenario where I have no rights as a human being, and I could be killed at any time. And that is, I mean, I can't find a situation more tough than that. Just imagine the mindset and the things that those people would be going through. So I want to just read a little quote by him, which just really hit me today. And this is what he said: "Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing: the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. So if there's one thing that I would say today, it would be that we need to control our attitude towards this whole pandemic and whatever's going on. You know,
Yeah.
it's just, I can't find advice better than that.
I love that. It's something that I always tell people as well, is you can't control the circumstances, but you can control how you respond to the circumstances.
Absolutely.
That is in your control. So that is such good advice.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, today we've been talking, and for those of you who are catching it right now and those who will watch this later, once it's posted on all the social media streams, we've been talking about resilience. We've been talking about communication. We've been talking about stepping out of our comfort zone. I really, really want to thank the two wonderful gentlemen that are to my side, depending on how you're viewing the screen. Simeon is a legend. I'm going to put some contact information for them because my guess is you want to get in touch. This is Simeon's information. He is an Army combat medic as well as an artist, and you can hear some music from this gentleman and more of this wisdom from him. Just follow that link tree. And then for Tayo, that is his contact details. He has got a book out. He has got podcasts. It's ranked one of the top 2 business podcasts in the entire world.
Wow.
This guy is on all the big screens and stages sharing his wisdom. So do check out his stuff as well. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining the show. I am going to put you backstage, and then I'm going to rejoin you backstage. So don't go anywhere. I'm going to remove you from this stage for this moment right now. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Dan.
Absolutely. All right. So that is a wrap for today's show. Thank you so much for joining on this live stream. Tomorrow, I've got triple Grammy Award winning artists on the show. It's going to be epic. And next week, we have got such a great lineup. Honestly, I think people like Jimmy Fallon and Trevor Noah should take some notes because, man, these are some amazing, amazing speakers. They're just sharing down-to-earth, great advice of ways that you can, as I keep saying, start now, start simple. Things that you can be doing literally in self-isolation, literally in quarantine. Ways of finding new things about yourself, finding new hobbies, finding new talents, finding new skills, finding new passions. This is a great time to really connect with who you are. Graham Dean, this is my South African buddy who is in Berlin. Thank you so much, my man, for saying lovely stuff. Graham and I started on this journey a long time ago because he was my co-host on my radio show. I don't think I'd have the confidence to be blah-blahing for 47 minutes and 44 seconds if it wasn't for Graham and I doing a weekly radio show in Dublin, Ireland. Guys, wherever you're watching from, I really, really appreciate you. And again, if you're catching it now, please hit the rewind button, go back and catch some of the stuff that Simeon and Tayo were talking about when it comes to resilience, when it comes to how they embraced this new world and a new world that they had to experience their whole life. Also want to give quick shout outs. Lovely Dorina. Thank you, Dan, for your enthusiasm, energy, and encouragement. I'll be listening live from now on. Best wishes in Dublin, Ireland. Oh, it is so nice to hear from you. This is a beautiful way to connect with people. And while our numbers might not be massive, our community is strong. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate every guest that comes in and gives their knowledge in the short amount of time that we have together. But to everyone who's watching silently, even if you're not commenting, do know that I care and I appreciate you and I'm wanting the best for you. If I can help in any way at all, please reach out. You know, I'm just an email or a DM away. I am here for all of us. I don't care what status or position of life you are. It doesn't matter. We got to stick by each other and support each other during this time because it is a new world and we all got to navigate it. So please do reach out if I can help out. For today, that is it. Thank you so much, and we'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.